On today's Hashi, I'm discussing the Producer Price Index, PPI, more inflation data just released this morning for the month of February, the rise in homeowner tenure, and the weekly unemployment report as we continue to monitor jobs. Today is Thursday, March 13th, 2025. I'm Byron Lazine, and the Hot Sheet starts now. Welcome into the Hot Sheet. Wherever you may be, let me know in the live chat which market that it is that you are tuning in from here as we close out the week of the Hot Sheet. It's been an eventful week in the real estate industry for sure. Some news, obviously, from Rocket, as well as industry leadership shakeup news as well. I'm going to make comments on all of that, plus a couple other points of topic that we have not been able to get into here on this particular show. Tomorrow on Knowledge Brokers podcast. And if you like the Hot Sheet, if you've been subscribed to the Hot Sheet, you've been following along the Hot Sheet, you'll love Knowledge Brokers podcast. It's myself, Tom Toole, Lisa Chinati, breaking down some of this, some of the more industry news as it relates to agents and the knowledge that we need to possess going forward into difficult, challenging markets. As well as those tactics that can help us move forward. So I don't know if Haley, if you want to drop the link to Knowledge Brokers Pod. By the way, like over half of the people that watch Knowledge Brokers Pod aren't subscribed to that channel. I would encourage you to hit subscribe on that channel. We've got a really good podcast coming tomorrow. Love to see you guys over there. If you like the Hot Sheet, you're going to love Knowledge Brokers podcast. All right, we got a lot to get through though here today as we close out the week. We have more inflation news, producer price index, as well as home tenure news and labor news. We're continuing, obviously, to watch labor market. There are many that believe we won't actually get a lower interest rate out of significance until labor breaks. So we'll see what the update here is so far on that this week. All right, producer price index was unchanged in February. So coming off of, sorry about that. That's not hooked up for you guys. I'll get the visual here shortly. But PPI unchanged coming off of yesterday's lower than expected CPI. So we now have two back-to-back inflation reports that are positive. Okay. And this is a midst of all of the recession talk. And the recession talk actually has led to some this morning. I'm seeing some in the economic news world saying, wow, that the Fed's going to start cutting sooner than we might anticipate, that there's going to be cuts coming. Well, they meet next week. The FOMC does. It's still it's at a 99% chance. I was going to say still 97, but it's at a 99% chance, according to CME Group, that they do not cut next week when they meet, that there will not be a cut. But the consensus now all of a sudden this morning is like, oh, they're going to be cutting sooner because of, the uncertainty about the economy and that we might be heading into a recession. We've heard this multiple times since interest rates went up. Are we heading into a recession? Logan Motoshami says, honestly, if we were going into a recession soon, the 10-year yield would be much lower than it is. And actually, it's only ticked up a little bit since this tweet. And so, there's people on both sides of this. I think there's a lot of information coming out now where it's just unclear. There's too much uncertainty. There's so much change happening, and the recession talk is going to be driven primarily out of Wall Street. The weaker economy, recession talks, because Wall Street wants things to turn for them, for the stock market. Remember, the stock market moving down, equities moving down, has helped the 10-year get off of that higher mark that we've seen over the last 3 months to the level that we're at today. Okay. And we are a little bit higher than even where Logan's tweet there was. I mean, just today we're at 4.345 on the 10-year. It's gone up a little bit this morning, back out of the 5.2s. We're at the high point for the last 5 days. If we look at the last 3 months, we're still near near our low point. We're not at it, but we're near it. And we've seen this, this relief here on the 10-year over the last 2 weeks, primarily because equity market, the stock market, has taken such a dip, and investors are moving over into investing into the 10-year. That's been helpful. If Wall Street goes on a boom, a tear the next 2 weeks, what do you expect is going to happen to the 10-year? Okay. Right now, they're not getting that. They're not seeing that relief. I think the market's down coming into today. Again, the producer price index, though, gives us a little bit of a picture on inflation and maybe how the Fed's going to look at inflation going into next week. And it was little unchanged. So you have a CPI report yesterday that comes in lower than expected. And now you have a PPI that is coming in with really no changes or flat anyways, compared though with an expected increase. So I would say that both, yesterday's and today's both beat expectations. PPI are wholesale prices. If you're curious about that, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that for whatever reason. I can never really figure that one out. January was upwardly revised to 0.6. So January, all those numbers came in a little hot. And then we had been looking here for a 0.3%, which would have been an increase, but core prices excluding trade only showed a gain of 0.2. Okay, so there's your PPI report for today, just released today, and we'll see what the Fed obviously does, and really looking more for the Fed's tone next week on how they're looking at inflation right now. All right. In the live chat, how long does a U.S. homeowner stay in their home? And do it for your market. Like, what's your feel of your market? Okay. Is it, is it going up? Are you on the low side of things? We just had a Rocket report release. Oh, I mean, not Rocket. We just had a Redfin report that the typical, I'm seeing Seattle 5 to 7, Jeff in Denton 4 to 6 years. I'm not sure where Jennifer, where are you? 10 years? Let us know where you're at, Jennifer. Kim's 5 to 10 years. On average, 7 years in OKC. 7 to 10 years, William, but it's going down. And 5 to 7 years, North Texas. Okay, Montana, 7 to 10 years. All right, so we've got a little taste here of kind of what our feel is in our local markets. Redfin reports that the typical U.S. homeowner is now staying put for 11.8 years. In parts of California, the typical homeowner stays closer to 20 years. The typical LA homeowner stays put for 19.4 years, longer than any other U.S. metro. It's the longest span on record for the area. Okay, so this typical U.S. homeowner staying put in their house for 11.8 years is, that's up from where we were across the country in years past. It's one of the reasons why, and I know, 11.8, it seems like on the chat here that seems high for, a lot of folks in their current market, but that is the average across the country. And your market might even be closer to 10 than you think. But just using the national average, up over 11 years, closer to 12, certainly over 10, it really leans into those conversations that we have with our buyers that are worried about price. Okay, well, most buyers stay in their house almost 12 years on national average. And I mean, listen, and here's how to earn trust with a buyer. If you're buying to stay in a house for 18 months, let's go look at rentals. Okay, let's go look at something on the rental market, because you shouldn't be a buyer if you're going to be living there for 18 months. If you're going to be living there for 11.8 years, which is what the typical homeowner does, that's typical homeowner tenure, or holding the property for 11.8 years that the typical homeowner does, then you're buying at the low point that you could over the next 10 years. Each of the last 4 decades, we've seen home price growth of 30+% in the 1990s. Okay. In the 2010s, it was close to 50%. In the 2000s, when we had a great financial crisis, it ended the decade up almost 50%. That's after losing almost 40% of the gains. Okay. That was accounting for the greatest mortgage crisis in the history of the world. Homes that were bought in 2000 and sold in 2010 still went up almost 50%. And in the 2020s, this chart here, I have an updated one, but I don't have it at my fingertips. I think it's in BAMX for members in favorite charts under hot sheet, which is absolutely where I should have went to. This one's just on my desktop. Let me go there. I'll bring up the updated one right now. BAMX, school.com/BAMX. We're now on the #1 training and community platform in the world. No more Facebook spam. But if I go here into my hot sheet data, and I just go to most popular charts, and go to home price by decade. Here's the updated one, 47.1. So there you go. 2020s is 47.1. You can just grab this chart inside of BAMX and use this when you're having conversations with buyers. It's like 47%, and that was during a great financial crisis. 47%, this decade, 44.7% in the 2010s. You got to go back to the 90s to only get 30% price growth in a decade. And that's a long time ago now. Like I love the 90s, but I got to face reality. Just because I listen to All Eyes on Me every morning when I'm in the gym, it doesn't mean that the 90s are that close to today. That's a long, long time ago. But the reality is that when you buy for a decade, when you buy on how people live in their homes, and most of the buyers that we're talking to are making a long-term decision to either hold or live in the property, it's 11.8 years. That's that tenure. When you buy on that path, you're buying at the low point of the decade. You can't time the market. You can always buy at the low point of the decade if you're buying for a 10, 12-year run like most people stay. Now, people stay even longer in California. So this conversation in California is even, obviously easier to have. Okay. If you look at California, the longest median tenure in 2024 was 19.4 years. San Jose, it's 18.3. Then you've got Cleveland, 17.7. Then San Francisco, another California on the list, 16.8. Providence is 16.8. And then biggest increases have come in Providence, LA, San Jose, New Orleans. New Orleans, unfortunately, because it's hard to sell a house there too. San Francisco at 4.2. Okay. So that's your top 5 longest median tenure for 2024. And then the biggest increase over the last 10 years comes in those next 5 on the list there. This just helps buyers put into perspective that they should be waiting for some kind of a deal. If you're only going to live here 2-3 years, if you're doing a flip, let's put our investor hat, not our home shopping hat. Okay. Home shopping and getting the benefit of appreciation takes care of itself when you're living in the home. Now, 5 years, I think you're going to start to, if I'm only going to live here 5 years, I think it starts to come into a local discussion, and some of the markets in the chat are like, yeah, people leave here 5 years. That means there's more turnover. That means there's more opportunities to get the home sold. If there's higher tenure in your market, then, I actually think that could go to your advantage as well, because you're now, you're going to be going into something that's lower inventory. Okay. Homeowner tenure has nearly doubled since 2005, but it actually moved up during the peak of COVID, and it's moved down since that time. But this is up quite a bit from historical numbers. Okay. If we look at pre-COVID, these numbers were all on the increase, obviously accelerated during COVID, but 11.8 sits, well above what we historically have seen. Moving's hard. It's difficult. Okay. The agents that have local solutions to make that process easier are the ones that are going to win and get top of the line referrals. This is a hard deal. 2005, 6.5 years. Okay. 2010 was still under 10 years. These are numbers that, if it's happening in your market, good for you. But I think most agents around the country would kill for those numbers. Here is what's happening around most of the country. Okay. Atlanta is at a 9.2 right now. And this is up from 8.8, down from the median tenure 10 years ago at 11.3. Baltimore's up to 15.3 median tenure for homeowners. Buffalo's at 12.1. So that's another high one. Charlotte at 8.7. Okay, anything in the eights is really good. That's a great market to be in as an agent. It means there's more turnover. It's a great place to geo farm, places that have higher turnover. I would hate to geo farm in Baltimore. I'd hate to be sending out mail to a neighborhood that is a 15-year turnover. Think about how much postage you're going to burn in neighborhoods in Baltimore that it's a 15-year turnover. Don't even bother, sending out mail into those neighborhoods. My rules for mail, by the way, if you're an agent, don't mail people under $400,000. Do not send mail to homes under $400,000. You're never going to get the return on that. I don't care if you've got the most beautiful postcard, you got the most brilliant thing to say. Under $400,000 sending mail is ROI negative every day of the week. If you can show me, DM me and BMX if you can show me different tracking on that. I've looked at it a variety of different ways. So never mail under 400K. Number two, you never want to mail like consistently 2-3 times a month into neighborhoods that are, I would say over 8 on the turnover. But I would be looking for 6. You can find 5 and 6 on the on the turnover rate. I'd be looking for that. Okay. Here's some other locations here. So again, Charlotte. And you know what's interesting? Let me jump into our show notes here. All of our show notes, how we make the cake here on the hot sheet's always available to BAMX members. If I go to today, all of the charts that we're using here today are available for you inside of BAMX. But if I just go to the show notes here at the bottom, download that really quick. If I look at markets that are really interesting, like if somebody were to say to me, what market should I like? I'm going to be a new agent. I went to college for business. My family's in real estate. Now I'm starting my career. I'm not attached to a certain local area. I want to start in the best market in the country to sell real estate over the next 10, 15 years. Well, I don't know much about Louisville. Sorry, Jay Pitts. But I do know something about these next 4. Okay. Las Vegas, Charlotte, Raleigh, Orlando. These 4 locations are growing exponentially. I'll have to ask Tom Toole about Louisville. I think he's got some, I'll have to ask him on Knowledge Brokers podcast tomorrow. I think he has some investment properties over there. But Las Vegas, they're going to get a baseball team soon. The amount of stadiums going up in Vegas, the inbound migration happening from California, Charlotte, all of the businesses moving to Charlotte and Raleigh, North Carolina. These are boom cities over the next 10, 15 years. Orlando, the growth happening in Orlando is exponential. But when you couple that with this, 8.4 years, 8.7, 8.8, 8.8, that means more opportunities for sales to help serve people, to help solve real estate solutions in those markets. There's more happening. There's more turnover. There's more people coming in. There's more investment dollars. We look at Zudelio, cash markets. They tend to be in these markets. These are just incredible markets to be in from an agent perspective, because the homeowner tenure is shorter. Homeowner tenure, where it's shorter, provides more opportunity. And certainly these are competitive markets. Las Vegas is competitive. Charlotte's competitive. These are everything on this list is competitive. Atlanta's competitive. Okay. Denver's competitive. Nashville, super competitive. These are competitive markets, but these are attractive markets to be in from an agent perspective. Okay. These are also markets, higher turnover can lead to more inventory at times. We're not seeing that in Vegas right now. Okay. You know, we're seeing that in Tampa. You know, we're seeing that in, you know, Nashville. You know, we're seeing that in some of these locations, Orlando right now, a little bit, not as much as Tampa. But right now, like Vegas, I'm very bullish on Vegas. If you're paying attention here to these recent hot sheets. So being in a market that has this type of high turnover, that's a good thing for agents. But being able to educate, even at 8-9 years in a Las Vegas, I don't think you can lose as a buyer holding a property for the average tenure of 8-9 years. And buyers get concerned. They get caught up in what somebody else bought their property for 5 years ago, or what somebody in their family is telling them that, you know, they should be only buying when the market comes down. You don't think other people have that idea? This is the first time your Uncle Louis is the first person who came up with this idea of waiting for prices to come down. You know, Warren Buffett's probably smarter than Uncle Louis or Uncle Billy. But Warren Buffett says, move in when there's fear. I saw a post on X on Monday, and it said, what happens if Tesla stock goes to $0? That's when I instantly bought Tesla stock. I'm like, wow, people are nuts. People are fearful. Oh, Tesla's at $200. They've been a $400 stock multiple times on the chart. I'll go cash in on that. Like, when there's fear, when there's uncertainty, that's when the time is to come in and buy. That's what Warren Buffett always talks about. Right now, there's fear. Our price is too high. Well, if rates get pushed down, like we talked about yesterday, because you know, the 10 years is going to be more attractive because of tariffs and all this other stuff. Well, if rates are going to get pushed down, and there's going to be a deflationary boom, like Kathy Wood thinks, in the second half of this year, and 2026 and 2027 are going to be golden era boom cycle. JP Morgan analyst who told us a couple of weeks ago says, you know, we're trying to buy up as much below replacement cost real estate as we can right now. They're trying to find $1 billion to spend on real estate below replacement cost real estate. If 2026, 2027 are going to be, everybody's coming in on those low rates that have been sitting on the sideline listening to their uncle's advice, then I want to be a buyer now when there's fear, when it feels high, but it's not. Okay. And these are the conversations that buyers need to hear. Average tenure in Chicago, 14.5. You know, Cincinnati, it's 12.8. Cleveland, it's 17.7. Detroit, it's 12.6. Hartford, Connecticut's 13.5. It's one of the hottest markets, according to Realtor.com, number one, according to Realtor.com, in the country. 13.5 years. There's a lack of inventory, obviously. This is up from 10.5 10 years ago. Jacksonville's at 9.9. Okay. Jacksonville feels like maybe it's moved up on price a lot the last 5 years. Well, you're staying there for 10. People aren't giving up their homes for 10 years. Look at the jump in LA, up to 19.4 from 14.5. Right? Like, hey, you buy a house in LA, you see that thing appreciate so much. It's like, well, even if I have to move, I'll just keep what I got because these prices, right? And they continue to move up because there's a lack of inventory there. Miami's at 11.6 with all the buying, all the building, all of the interest in Miami at 11.6. And that's basically flat for 10 years. 10 years ago it was 11.8. People buying Miami and they're keeping it for a long period of time. Now, I know there's probably condo buildings that number is going to be lower. Okay. There's going to be micro examples in certain neighborhoods, starter home neighborhoods, areas in your market. You should know these things, and you should let that data guide you for agents on how you invest, on how you market to a particular neighborhood or a particular community. Don't just market to something because you think the price point is good. Is there any turnover? What's the chances of you getting one? Right? I see agents make this mistake with direct mail all the time because direct mail is easy to click and send. But what's what's actually the smarter way is to click and send into the right neighborhoods, into the right communities. Look for higher turnover. Look for a lower homeowner tenure as another way to look at it. All right, we've got unemployment here to wrap the week as always. In the week ending March 8th, initial claims was 220,000. It's a decrease of 2,000 from the previous week's level. And the 4-week moving average is 226,000, which is an increase of 1,500. So unemployment moving sideways. We're at 4.1 months of unemployment. There's really no movement here. We haven't seen anything to be concerned about in employment. You get up over 4.3, that's going to be something that can drive down long-term rates. That's going to be something that can help the 30-year mortgage, but we're not going to get relief on the mortgage rates or the long-term rates from jobs this week. It looks like we're kind of holding course. Remember, there's a little bit less, a little bit more job openings than last month. We just looked at that. I think it was yesterday. There's a tick up, not much, but a tick up, 7 million, I think it was, if my memory serves me correctly, on job openings. Okay, so there's jobs available. We have about one unemployed for every job opening. Okay, so if people want to work, there's opportunities. The unemployment rate could probably be even lower if they qualified. Obviously, 4.332 coming into the day here on Thursday on the 10-year. 30 years been a little higher the last couple of days than what we saw on the lows. 6.82, another little pop up yesterday. We'd love to get back into those 6.6, 6.7. I'd love to get down to 6.5. But that's what we're seeing right now. Remember, some of these, low inflation numbers that we've seen this week, like CPI yesterday. Yesterday you saw the stock market go up. Now it's back down coming into today. But as the market goes up, less investors are going into the 10-year, and that increases the 10-year, and then obviously the 10-year or the 30 years what the 10-year follows. So 6.82 here going into the last two readings of the week. There'll be a reading today. There'll be a reading tomorrow. We'll see kind of what shakes out. Love for you to join me over tomorrow on Knowledge Brokers Podcast. This is the last hot sheet here of the week. We do the show every Monday through Thursday when the markets are open, 9:30 on the East, 6:30 on the West. But tomorrow, usually around midday, we post the Knowledge Brokers Podcast over on the Knowledge Brokers channel. Haley dropped the link into the live chat. She'll put it into the description if you're getting this on the replay. Love for you to consider subscribing to that YouTube channel. If you like what I do here on the hot sheet, you'll love that discussion. We get into a lot more of the tactical stuff that a knowledge broker, knowledge agent should be deploying in today's market. We're going to talk about depth some of the news of the week. Obviously, how agents can leverage that rocket news, some of the industry shakeup stuff. And then we've got a couple other very interesting topics to discuss there as well. So hope to see you over there. To get the most out of what we're doing at BAM, make sure you log into BAMX, school.com/BAMX, SKOOL.com/BAMX. You get access to all of our hot sheet show notes each and every single day, as well as all of the charts that I use right here each and every single day on this show, including this one. Every day you get this uploaded into the classroom under hot sheet. Also on Fridays, which is tomorrow, it's our weekly content drop where you get social templates and all of the copy and how to post it all done for you each and every single day. Green slate, green screen slides, video scripts written by our video team. Bobby works on those scripts each and every single week. Email scripts from our email writing team, as well as blog scripts from our writers each and every single week. I've been using the blog and emails for my own team and seen open rates almost double from using this data. Go to school.com/BAMX where you get access to the community, all of that content, 30 plus on-demand courses, and your cash offer platform, Zudelio, which is a $2,400 value in and of itself. You get that access to that platform for absolutely free to help you get more listings and compete with any iBuyers in your market. All right, there you go for today. Hope everybody has a great Thursday. There'll be a walkthrough pod later on in the channel here, and I hope to see you over on Knowledge Brokers tomorrow. Until then, of course, toodaloo.